Hey guys, I got a little experiment here and this is work in progress build, but it has many issues, and I'm making this video because I'm not entirely sure if everything is working as intended. I also don't know what can I do to increase single target damage. Maybe I'm gonna start with the idea and then with the weird issue that I can figure out, and then I'm gonna end up with going over the build and a question: how can I increase single target? So the idea was Abyssal Lich has this node. To those who don't know, for some reason, there's a secret Ascendancy class for the Lich which you can turn into Abyssal Lich, and then essentially your minions turn into buffs. So you can see a list of buffs that skeleton minions can provide you. So for example, attack damage, projectile speed, energy shield, recharge, increased AoE, which is what I'm building around, spell damage, increased energy shield, stun buildup, or skill speed. And this is per minion. So the idea is to stack a lot of spirit to allow you to have as many of specific minions as possible. And I am stacking AoE. I want big AoE. So as you can see, my Warcry has pretty big AoE. I still want it bigger, and I will. If I'm going to be stacking spirit, most likely I will want a scepter with as much spirit as possible, and then Prism Guardian to get even more spirit. Which means I don't really have a proper weapon for skills. And what skill doesn't really scale with weapon? Well, Corrupting Cry. Corrupting Cry scales purely off your strength, and it doesn't really care about your weapon at all, because it's not an attack, it is not a spell, it is not bleed, it is damage over time that scales, physical damage over time that scales with your strength and stacks up to 10 corrupted blood stacks. So I was thinking, since it doesn't care about the weapon, it could probably work for this Abyssal Lich. I played this in 0.1 Seismic Cry, and it was always kind of weird. It cleared pretty well, but single target was bad, and people back then were suggesting to swap into Shockwave Totem, which got changed, which now scales off your weapon rather than having its own base damage. So I tried all sorts of things, swapping weapons and swapping weapon swap into spells, into Shockwave Totem, into different spells, into Essence Drain, into now even trying the Bone Storm. Single target is still bad, and you cannot really get much increased damage. That's the problem, because stacking strength is just getting essentially base damage, flat damage. You still need increased damage and then more damage. There is no curse that can help me. The armor beak also only works for hit. The fully broken armor applies a debuff that makes enemies take 20% more damage with physical hits. Or was it physical attacks? Either way, it's not a hit. Well, it is a hit, Seismic Cry is a hit, but the Corrupting Blood is not a hit, it's not derived from the hits. However, it does scale off increase damage with Warcries. That does help. So there aren't that many nodes that are generic, like increased physical damage. Well, they are, but it's hard to reach and lots of traveling. You need increased generic physical damage. There are no damage over time nodes. There's no magnitude to give it more multiplier. So there's not much you can do to increase its damage. There are some tricks that you can do, but the main issue is that not just the damage itself, but the way I'm trying to build this is a bit complicated, because as Abyssal Lich you can mitigate 15% of the hit damages completely as long as you have energy shield. Now the problem is, if you don't have energy shield, I'm taking 20% of my life every time I cast Seismic Cry, because I'm using this lineage support which applies 5 corrupted blood stacks on enemies instead of just 1. So I just need to work right twice and boom, maximum stacks. It scales 25% of my strength. However, I lose 2% life per corrupted blood on enemy. So if enemy has 10, I just boom immediately lose 20% of my life. If I have energy shield, my life cannot be changed, and I cannot heal myself, I cannot leech, I cannot restore my life, I cannot lose life. So as long as I have energy shield. So that's why I'm also trying to build energy shield. I am using Heroic Tragedy. This is Vorana version, which allows a keystone to turn into this, where you get increased energy shield per strength. So I'm stacking strength to increase energy shield, to also get flat damage. I'm also getting a bit of increased damage from strength here. So yeah, maybe I should talk about the weird part of this build. So look what happens when I use Seismic Cry once, and look at how much rage I'm getting. 16. How am I getting 16 rage? Now let me use Infernal Cry with the exact same supports. If I use Infernal Cry, I'm getting 8. I cannot understand why this is happening. The skill has no extra explanation why would this happen. Why am I getting twice more rage? I am using Enrage Warcry tier 2, so it essentially allows me to bypass cooldown of Seismic Cry or any Warcry if I can spend 15 rage. And then Raging Cry generates 4 rage per 5 power, and I have 10 minimum power, so I should be getting 8 rage, right? This is what happens when I use Infernal Cry. I have 10 minimum power. I don't have any other power nodes besides these, but these don't really affect minimum. So I don't understand why am I getting 16 rage and not 8. If it was 8, this build wouldn't work. So the next patch, if they fix this, and it will then give 8 rage, as it should probably, then this won't even work because you won't be able to bypass the cooldown, and it's gonna be... Maybe it would still be possible because I have so much AoE and such a big presence area. As you can see, my presence area is pretty big, so enemies, even standing far away from me, would still be seen by the Warcry and count towards power, but it wouldn't really work so well anymore. So that's the part that I'm not sure why it's working that way. Otherwise, I'm using this support gem to apply 5 Corrupted Blood stacks, using Swift Affliction 2, not Swift Affliction 3, because Swift Affliction 3 requires a duration less than 1 second, otherwise it won't give damage. And then Brutality 3, more damage. So I'm using 2 supports to just enable this skill to be spammed, and then only 2 supports to increase the damage of the Corrupted Blood. So there's not enough more multipliers to scale the damage, there's not enough increased damage on the passive skill tree, and there's no, well, more multipliers on the passive skill tree. There's no curse that would increase his damage. Vulnerability is lowering enemy armor, does nothing for this. There's no mark that would help either. I am actually using the Bloodhound's mark just to build up stun. Literally doesn't do anything else for me. Quickly gonna go over my current items. This is, like I said, work in progress. I'm level only 76. But it's very unpleasant to map with, and the next patch is gonna add bosses to every single map. Tougher beast monsters, tougher rare monsters and bosses are very annoying for this build. I'll probably experiment a lot with other skills and what can I do with AoE stacking or skill speed stacking or maybe a stun build up stacking. So yeah, my items currently getting Scepter with as much spirit as I can, at least for lower level. I will update this at level 78, I believe, with the Discipline aura and more spirit. Essentially on the weapon, I just need spirit and strength. Presence area could also be nice, but there's nothing else that would give me anything else. Alpha's Howl just gives 100 spirit and 2 second corruption. You can optimize this for the maximum spirit, but then you will have even less damage. So I'm not really going for the maximum spirit just yet. But you could use the Darkness and Prone belt for the maximum spirit. Like this for more reservation for minions, then Bones of Ur boots for reservation for minions, Prism Garden for more spirit. I did craft this amulet with flat strength, spirit and percent increased strength and attributes, and also anointed percent attributes. So currently I have 415 strength, but I do want to get more. I would need to replace body armor with like spirit and strength, but it's kind of difficult to cap resistances then. I am also trying to use the grip of the Kulamak, which is able to roll percent increase strength or other attributes. Also debuff magnitude, slow debuff magnitude, extra spirit, and a reduced presence area doesn't really do much because I already have a lot of presence area. And the gloves, I really like these gloves. When you're running Temple Chain Blasphemy and you have such mega AoE, the normal enemies are slowed more than 70%. Against rare and bosses, obviously it's not as strong. It's like 22% against rares, I believe, or something like that. But it works really well for mapping, because if I'm getting hit and lose energy shield, I don't really have many options to recover my ES. There are options like changing the belt into Chevron's belt, which allows you to use life rest to heal your energy shield. But then I would be losing strength and life and resistances. Convalescence, which only costs 30 spirit, but it has very long cooldown. This one has 24-second cooldown. When you lose your energy shield, you can click this to essentially start your energy shield recharge and it won't be interrupted for the duration. And yeah, there's nothing else I can do, so my play is essentially slow down enemies so much that it's kind of easy to just don't get hit manually. That's how I'm playing right now. Bossing is not really an option, it just takes forever to deal with a boss, but clearing is actually pretty satisfying because Lich also has cursed enemies explode. It's only 33% chance to explode, but it deals physical damage. So once again, I need generic increased physical damage. And the buffs from Umbral Soul do not have any generic damage increase. It's either attack damage, spell damage. There's no generic increased damage, sadly. So these explosions don't really do that much damage because I simply just don't have enough generic damage scaling. Maybe it could be an option to use Chaber, the two-handed mace, but in one hand, which would require over 300 intelligence, so then you would need to stack a lot more intelligence. But with Chaber, that's the only way you can scale minion damage or use minion damage as your own damage increase. There is no spiritual aid on PoE 2. So yeah, this is where I'm asking for some ideas how to increase single target damage, because I tried swapping into Shockwave Totem. I have around 600 damage. This isn't like great weapon, it's 541 actually DPS. Swapping into Shockwave Totem, and the Shockwave Totem had less than 1000 DPS. It's pretty much unnoticeable damage, even in low tier maps. And also it needs accuracy. If I weapon swap into some Wand, well, once again, I don't really have scaling for it, because I'm not taking any spell damage nodes, I'm not taking any crit nodes, and the strength does not contribute to spell damage. There's no Iron Will on the passive skill tree or on supports. There's only one Iron Will on body armor. So I don't really know what else I can do for Corrupting Cry. Maybe some of you did something similar and have some ideas in the current league. What can you do for the Corrupting Cry? Because I do like this AoE and I do like this sort of playstyle, but I don't see how single target, even if I double my single target damage, it's still very slow bossing. That's about it for now. If you got some interesting ideas for Abyssal Lich in general, leave them in the comments below. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.